Shapiro is... he looks a little angry here. This is a funny looking Ben Shapiro. This is the first frame of their video. They chose this. Tough. Trump is not Hitler. That's true. He's Trump. He couldn't be Hitler. They're different people. He's very mad. People are calling him Hitler. Trump had a speech recently in which he said, you know, he said that like immigrants poison the blood of America or some shit. And so people are like, hey, that's pretty Nazi rhetoric there. Also today, Colorado isn't letting him be on their primaries, on their ballots. And of course they're going to fucking lose their minds about that, but who cares? Trump is not Hitler from the glorious Ben Shapiro.
Well, folks, Democrats believe they have the silver bullet against Donald Trump in 2024. And wait for
the silver bullet. This man's riddled with bullets. Donald Trump's my dude 50 Cent out here getting shot up. The man is guilty of many crimes. He's a shyster, dude. He's a bad guy. He's a bad hombre, as they say. As he said. He's no good, Jack. He's full of malarkey. I mean, that said, he still might win. I mean, I don't know. Who fucking knows in this piece of shit country? But I think he's gonna have a hard time with his trial and shit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think the best thing that could happen is that one or both of them perish from natural causes before the election. In either situation, we are saved. I think the worst person they could run instead is Kamala Harris. But I feel like it would be okay otherwise, right? Can they get someone worse than Joe Biden? They would just wouldn't tell me they wouldn't run fucking Hillary again. They'd be like, "Okay, Hillary, you're the pinch hitter. Let's go." All right. Anyway, Trump is not Hitler still.
Wait for it. It's that he's Hitler. As I say, the Democratic proposal is that Donald Trump must lose because he's an authoritarian. We don't like authoritarians, except for when Joe Biden is using his pen and his phone to try to mandate that 80 million people take a vaccination or lose their jobs.
So, I think that these are different. These are different. So one is a health issue, and you don't have to get the jab if you don't want to. I'm stocked up on my 6G, feeling fine. It seems to have helped. I'm actually happy if Republicans don't get vaccinated against the preventable diseases at this point. I think that's totally fine. I think this is, the selection pressure on human beings is not super high. Like the worst part about human beings is other human beings. Like it's very rare that something else takes you out that isn't yourself or a fellow human being. If you go on naturally. So it's like I'm fine if you don't get your vax, I guess. I'm fine. Didn't Trump start that shit? Trump did start the shit, but they handled it poorly. There's a whole thing. Donald Trump is an authoritarian, man. He wants to run people's individual lives. I don't think it would fly very well whatsoever. The way he's talking is crazy, dude. To defend it is, part and parcel for a Republican. They want to control the minutia of your lives. I have a suspicion that this isn't a very popular platform to wield, personally. I don't think it's a winner.
And then they like authoritarians. Or like when they try to just by dint of executive order get rid of hundreds of billions of dollars in student loan debt, and then the Supreme Court says no. And then they do it anyway, which is the thing that's literally happening right now. They've still been dispersing funds, I'm not kidding, in violation of Supreme Court ruling. Doesn't matter. The real authoritarian.
The Supreme Court? I don't respect the Supreme Court. I think we should respect that. I don't know what he's talking about with the money. I don't care. Yeah, the Supreme Court doesn't matter to me.
Are people like Donald Trump. Again. Look at that Truth Social and tell me that what you're seeing here is a burgeoning Mussolini or Hitler.
Okay.
Look at his Truth Social.
All right.
Dude doesn't know how to capitalize right, guys.
Is he? So he's firmly DeSantis now, right? Is this guy full on DeSantis train?
He misspells basic words. Like, when he was president of the United States, his authoritarianism amounted to him saying things on Twitter that he then didn't do.
Wow. So threats of authoritarianism from the American president is bad, even if he doesn't follow through on them. Actually, Ben, how's that good? Well, he didn't actually do any authoritarianisms. He did many authoritarianisms. There was some police violence that he endorsed throughout. He banned trans people from the military. He did, immigration bans and shit. Like, he's a pretty bad guy. He's done a lot of bad things. He bombs indiscriminately. He loves the use of violence and murder. And you gave a psycho the ability to call in other people's ability to murder, and he loved that shit.
But this is going to be their entire... Like, no one thinks Donald Trump is this scary. Seriously. I'm sorry. Like, even people who are suggesting that January 6th was a massive crisis-level event for the president, not just an ugly, horrible thing that happened, which I agree, ugly, horrible, bad images of people storming the Capitol building, hurting police officers and all the rest. That was not an existential crisis for the United States. Not remotely. It was...
So he's legally obligated at this point to not deny outright like he has, but now he's like, well, this wasn't even a big deal though. I actually think it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, if they had gotten a single congressperson and actually killed them, it would have been fucking crazy. Can you imagine if they were at all capable of pulling off what they desired? Imagine if they fucking hung up Nance or something, or they were going after Mike Pence. That shit would have got fucking crazy. They would have been killing American citizens. It would have got pretty fucking nuts. $1. Trump and his knob slobbers like Ben are not terrifying on a personal human level, more like an existential threat to all humanity, like a big orange meteor who won't shut up. Yeah, we need reasonable people in charge of things, and we don't have any of that. We have fucking crazy old people that ate lead and had fucked up parents. You know, they had fucking shell-shocked, war-torn parents that were addicted to fucking like cocaine gum, and the first wave of antidepressants. Slobbering through the world, super dependent on substances, often alcohol, painkillers and shit, amphetamines. They raised the boomers who, were your parents, you remember. Not every boomer is great, most of them bad. It's not an ideal situation to have a bunch of fucking, destroyed people run your country, even from the aristocracy, which, by the way, is how America is run. It's run pretty much strictly from the aristocracy down. Every single one of these goes to like fucking 7 schools. That's not a coincidence. Remember when Ben hated Trump before 2017? Remember when he tried to return to disliking him in 2021?
There's a bunch of dolts, and some people who are like in good faith there and wandering the halls, who held up the procedure for like 2 hours. And then that was it. But they're still going with the Trump-Hitler thing here.
Poison, which has invaded the national body.
Illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. Yeah. Like, what? What do you think this means?
Especially the strong influx of foreign blood. That is from Mein Kampf. As a historian, Doug, what did you hear?
Pretty Hitler-y, yeah. The Hitler, if you could detect Hitler particles, it would, the Geiger counter noise would happen. The crackles would be crackling.
In the former president's remarks.
I heard a former president who is jiving on fascism. There's no question about it.
Jiving on fascism. I agree. You'll be shocked to find out how many American presidents have jived on fascism. It's a lot of them. It's pretty much all of them.
about that being a line from Mein Kampf. He knows it.
I think Jimmy Carter was probably okay.
He's been dabbling in Adolf Hitler his whole life, keeps Hitler's speeches at a bedside. Mein Kampf seems to be the book that's inspired Trump the most. So it's heinous because it's the kind of language meant to belittle people, dehumanize them. And when we're not making an anti-Trump comment, when we're saying he is a fascist, guys, that really we're dealing with a fight in our country between democracy and fascism. And Trump's telling you that. He doesn't really mind the Hitler comparison because at heart, he admires Hitler.
I mean, he said he admires Hitler in the past, though.
Yeah.
What?
Like, really, who buys this? Seriously, does anyone buy this?
Yeah, man. Because on account of the things he's said and done. Yeah, I do, actually.
Meanwhile, Eddie Glaude doing the same routine on MSNBC. MSNBC,
what? He mumbles so much.
Trump is Hitler channel. Is they say that Trump is tapping into long-standing illiberal tradition. Again, hearing people on the left talk about illiberal traditions as they simultaneously shut down free speech on campuses, tell people that they are not allowed to use biological pronouns, use the power...
Shut down free speech on campuses, say they can't use biological pronouns. Because you're railing against people saying that they have a right to expression that supersedes your right to free speech. You know what I mean? Like you're harassing them at some point. You feel me? Like you're just harassing them. It is what it is. You've lost in the court of public opinion. Trans people are pretty normalized, depends on where you're at, but I mean, there's trans people about, and they will continue to be about, and you will be jaded as fuck, and the boomers will die, and everyone will be good, and only Ben Shapiro will be left with his Aquaman house, screaming from the shoals.
Power of the pen and the phone to do whatever they damn well please. I'm having some trouble squaring the circle here.
Remember, Nazi lawyers in the 1930s are actually looking to American law, anti-miscegenation law, immigration law, as examples. Mein Kampf actually quotes the American project as an exemplary project. Remember in 1939 in Madison Square Garden, there's an extraordinary Nazi rally. So part of what Trump has done, he's tapped into a long-standing illiberal tradition in the United States. And is
yeah. We've always had Nazis
exploiting it. So we need to see the newness of it, but also see what is actually quite familiar.
We had fucking chattel slavery. Why are we pretending? We just need to address as a nation the reality of our history and move on. Address it. Take it on. Stop gaslighting entire populations of people. Address it. Easy. You weren't even the people that fucking... I mean, some of the people that were alive literally were part of it, I guess. Fucking segregated bathrooms.
By the way, some of the biggest supporters of Mussolini and Hitler in the early 1930s, people in the Democratic Party, including, by the way, FDR. If you know the audio engineer field...
Did FDR support Benito Mussolini? He called him admirable and deeply impressed with what he was accomplished. In 1930, 3 New Deals, Reflections on Roosevelt's America, Mussolini's Italy. Get out of there. That article, I'm convinced now more than ever that Ben's hat is a prop. His yarmulke? No, he's a devout, believing man. Dude, this is a long article. Roosevelt himself called Mussolini admirable and professed that he was deeply impressed by what he has accomplished. The admirable was mutual. In the laudatory review of Roosevelt's 1933 book, Looking Forward, Mussolini wrote, reminiscent of fascism is the principle that the state no longer leaves the economy to its own devices. Without question, the mood accompanying this sea changes resembles that of fascism. The chief Nazi newspaper, Volkischer Beobachter, repeatedly praised Roosevelt's adoption of nationalist socialist strains of thought in his economic and social policies and the development toward an authoritarian state based on... So I'm going to be honest, it sounds like destabilizing language, but in the North American Review in 1934, the progressive writer Roger Shaw described the New Deal as fascist means to gain liberal ends. He wasn't hallucinating. FDR's advisor Rexford Tugwell wrote in his diary that Mussolini had done many of the things which seemed to me necessary. Lorena Hickok, a close confidant of Eleanor Roosevelt who lived in the White House for a spell, wrote approvingly of the local official who had said, if President Roosevelt were actually a dictator, we might get somewhere. She added that if she were younger, she'd like to lead the fascist movement of the United States. In the National... so it sounds like I just don't like any of them, man. This is from the Cato Institute, though.
It is typically not filled with joy and laughter. Our audio engineer, Mike Coromina, no exception. I've asked him to cheer up for, I don't know, it's been almost a decade at this point. He's not going to listen. He's just going to remain as dour as ever. But we love Mike for all of that because he's an excellent, excellent audio engineer, despite the fact that he is not exactly going to pep in your step with his personality. I see you, Mike. I see you. But this is why we need more. Listen, I love our dour employees. They're some of my favorites.
What is happening? Is he riffing? What did this turn into?
That's why we need more of you. And we're going to go to ZipRecruiter to get them.
We're doing an ad? He's riffing into an ad. I see. Okie dokie.
Because that's just the reality of Trump. Sometimes he says good Trump, bad Trump, because that's just the reality of Trump. Sometimes he says good things, and sometimes he says bad things. Well, yesterday...
Sometimes he's good or bad. That's the reality with him. Republicans are so fucking brain dead. Well, sometimes the guy that we want to be president can't fucking think. Well, like, it is what it is about whether or not he's a functional human being. He couldn't be me, man. Just couldn't fucking be me.
He decided to once again attack Chip Roy, one of the most conservative members of the House Republican caucus. He said, has any smart and energetic Republican in the great state of Texas decided to run in the primary against Rhino Congressman Chip Roy? For the right person, he is very beatable. If interested, let me know. Guess just be very clear. Chip Roy is one of the best congresspeople in America. He's an excellent congressperson.
Sounds like he sucks. Vote him out.
Deeply conservative. He's one of the people who pried concessions away from Kevin McCarthy. So if you liked those concessions, thank Chip Roy.
Yeah, fuck Chip Roy if Ben Shapiro likes him.
Chip is, again, an excellent thinker, super conservative. Donald Trump doesn't like him because he did not go along with the idea that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. And
I would love to progress past this era and get on to the next arguments humanity has. But we're spinning our fucking tires, slowly inching toward any sort of progress as these fucking knuckleheads just continue to bog us down with useless bullshit.
Still pissed about it. And by the way, this is really stupid. When I say it's stupid, I mean it is technically stupid. The primary ballot is not open. It is too late to get on the primary ballot against Chip Roy. That's 7 days after the Texas primary filing deadline passed. And which is...
Yeah, he sucks. Donald Trump is stupid. He's...
And tweeting things or putting things out on Truth Social does not manifest them in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, this should be a point of annoyance for a lot of conservatives. It really should. But the biggest problem is that, again, conservatives, they basically trust Trump. They've watched him be president for 4 years. Mm-hmm. The policies that he promoted were pretty conservative. And so they've learned to basically discount anything that he says on Truth Social, which means that there are not a lot of amazing lines of attack by his opponents in the Republican primaries against him. Ron DeSantis' line of attack was going to be, I am more trustworthy as a conservative. I'm the best conservative governor of your lifetime. And all of that is true. But if the baseline level of trust from the conservative public is very high for Trump, very hard to outflank him that way. This seems to be DeSantis' continued message. And again, in a primary held today, I vote for DeSantis over Trump and Haley. But DeSantis, Now, this line of attack is not going to be fruitful against Donald Trump. He says Trump could have pardoned nonviolent January 6th protesters. He chose not to. Outpuring Donald Trump is not going to work.
Outpuring him.
Well, it's interesting on the January 6th protests. I mean, he called that rally knowing that that was going to be in D.C. where things could get potentially out of hand.
So now watching the Republicans have to face semi-reality as they hope people memory hole a lot of the January 6th stuff. Like, that now they have to be like, well, yeah, it was bad. It was a little bad.
And he's now saying he would do clemency for the, I guess, the nonviolent. But he could have done that when he was president. He could have said, look, he could have taken responsibility. He could have said that the people that went, not the violent people, obviously that's a different.
Could he have done this when he was president? Wait, why did they storm the Capitol? Why did January 6th happen? Could he have done this when he was president? What? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Why did they show up there?
It's a bird of a different feather. But on the people that were there just as protesters and kind of got caught up in it, he could have granted clemency to them, and he chose not to because I think he was told that if he did that, he could potentially risk being convicted at his Senate impeachment trial. So the idea that now he's going to help people that were railroaded, he could have done that before he left office.
Okay, so DeSantis is totally correct about all of this, of course. But that's assuming that the conservative public is deeply interested in Trump's policy positions, which they are not. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points?
Oh, hard dismount. Reason old World War II octopus imagery. No, that's just the end of the video. We just hard fucking fall out of the video. We're just, okay.
Policy positions, which they are not.
Yeah, wow, okay. I don't know if maybe I was just, maybe I smoked a little too much and I just was pulled right out of there. Can you believe I don't have a lot of faith in any of the Republican candidates that they are ever going to run? I think, here's my advice to the Republicans for the future. Be likable to people that vote. Easy. You know? All you have to do is you don't have to be like conservative or anything. You could just be like, what are my constituents like? And then ask them and then represent them in Congress. But instead, it's a self-enrichment platform and everyone just has to make deals and, you know, help themselves. Cool. You know, good country, working great. Very functional. Will be fine, I'm sure.